And we are officially in. Hello, welcome to the Boss Moves Media Show, episode 14, with the incredible Les. Now, his resume is very long. I mean, he is an incredible person within the music industry. He has done so much for the business just by being part of the radio industry, right? So I know Les has a background in music compiling. He has a background in music production. He creates and produces songs himself. And we're going to hear all about this today. My name is Nala. And obviously, this is an incredible episode, something that a lot of people have been asking about. I mean, as a radio broadcaster, I get inundated with requests for this particular topic because people want their music on the radio. Some odd reason they think I can get it on there, and no, I can't. But this guy can. His name is Les. Welcome to the show. Woo-hoo! How are you? Unmute, please. Yay.
Good evening. I'm fantastic. And yourself?
I'm awesome. Thank you, Les. I'm just going to take off my earring. It's not working right now. Good. It's good to have you here. I mean, we tried to have you here once. It didn't work, but we're here now, and we're so glad. Because this is very important. I mean, this conversation is so important, Les. And I don't think there is a platform to actually talk about it because the radio is busy playing people's music. And then on social media, we don't really hear the voice of the music compilers and the people who are actually in charge in this business, who can kind of school and train and show these musicians and wannabe musicians where to go. First, let's start with the first things first, right? Who is Les?
Lisiba Marokana, born and bred in Tembisa. Yeah, currently somewhere in Joburg.
Yeah.
So currently obviously plying my trade in one of the biggest urban stations in South Africa. And obviously my journey has been for 11 years or so.
Yeah.
Kicked off my journey with on a commercial space, that is. I kicked off with YFM in 2010, was there for 2 years in the compiling position, and then moved over to TV for a good 6 months. I kind of felt like maybe TV was slightly slow for me. Radio has that image that was kind of important. Radio keeps you on your toes, you know what I mean? I was basically part of the team that launched Zanzi Magic.
Nice.
So I was there for a good 6 months. The channel was running steadily at the time, obviously, that I had left. And then Talk Radio, weirdly enough, which was Power FM in 2015.
Okay.
But they also had where they had elements of shows that are music related. So on their weekends they would have music, and overnights at the time that I was there. So I was part of that team that went on air. Then 2 years later again I landed up for 4 years. Then we're here now with Metro.
And now you're on, right? And that's incredible. And I mean, 2 questions. The first.
So that's my journey.
The journey. It's incredible. 2010, you were at YFM. Why do I not remember you?
Maybe our paths never crossed. I don't know.
But also
I came in just before the World Cup.
Oh, and that's when I left. And at that time, I mean, there was a huge shift because YFM had just moved from Rosebank to Hyde Park, right? In those couple of months.
Definitely.
And then I was the old Y Academy, so we were out, and then the new Y Academy had come in. You did not come through Y Academy though, right?
No. So when I came in, the Y Academics at the time were were fairly new. Those guys that were
Yeah.
there. So yeah, I was
Oh,
probably
that
like
makes sense.
a month, yeah, a month or two just after they had started.
How crazy is that? We missed each other by like a few days, and then we meet each other at 5 FM, and here we are now, right?
Definitely, and you are doing your thing. I mean, nicely on Radio 2000 Breakfast. So that's
Ah,
amazing as well. You know what I mean?
oh man. You know what, Les,
Yeah.
I mean, you're so inspiring to so many people, and I know you get calls every day of people want to get their music on the radio. But then my question is, how did you get to where you are today? What did you have to study? What first jobs did you take on to prep yourself to be this, renowned music compiler in South Africa?
Weirdly enough, I also started out like in retail, business, telecommunications,
Yeah, the call center.
and yeah, call center. I was dying a slow death, and weird story is that I think in just before I was about to join was this YFM. I was at SAA, and I was busy like writing my exams to obviously go on there like on a full-time basis to be employed a permanent basis, right?
Doing what?
So on the day, it's pretty much doing flight bookings,
Okay.
anything that is to do with with on the ground job in terms of like booking flights, making sure that the what's this the well,
The
people that take
airplane.
flights,
The
like people that
passengers. Yes.
the passengers,
Yeah, yeah.
passenger training 101. So I was part of that, but then obviously I was just behind the scenes where you deal with flight bookings. So on the Friday where we were doing like our final exam and we were getting our results to start, and we were supposed to start like on a Monday. That's when I got a call from YFM to say, yo,
What?
track for you, and yeah, you need to come this afternoon. Tell us if you're still keen or not, because obviously I'd gone through interviews prior to that, but then that's when I got my the call, and I didn't even know how much I was gonna get paid. I knew that with SAA I was probably gonna get paid very well. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
there's perks of free flights and all of that. You know what I mean? So I had to make a decision like on the spot whether I decline the YFM thing or if I stay at if I stay at SAA, you know what I mean? So I was like, I've been pushing for this because prior to that I had like community radio experience where I spent about also like a good 2.5 years in my township, which is Tembisa. So that's what I had to deal with, and my thing was always trying to get into radio all the time, radio. So for me, with that gap between 2009 and 10, I had no radio gig at the time. So for me, that opportunity when it came, I was like, I'm stopping everything else. Yes, I'm definitely going for it. And I
Wow.
guess that was the best decision that I kind of made. Even though it wasn't great, but I was like, it's the foot in the door.
Sure.
We'll take it from there and let's just see how
Yeah.
it goes. And I guess one of the biggest things that I learned when obviously when I was at YFM, like there's a lot of tests that you kind of go through when you okay the money that I have at the moment, you start getting frustrated
Yeah.
and you're thinking,
Yeah.
is this like really worth for me to continue with?
Right.
Because my expectations of the media industry was just like staying where it's just fun throughout, when in fact in itself the other part is, it is like another job, just like any other job out there. And if people treated it like, then that would be enough for everyone else to be able to sustain themselves throughout. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the one thing that I learned about it. that patience is key. I'm
Yeah.
and at the time I was working closely like with the likes of we were doing the hip hop hot 99,
Okay.
right? And he was
Yeah.
the one
And he
person
was
that
seasoned. He was
was
seasoned scoop at that
yeah
time, right?
yeah. So he's the one that like kept on encouraging me that, man, like, don't worry about it. Like, after 2 years or so, once you've garnered some sort of experience, it will definitely favor. Then other media institutions will be able to take you on. And
Mm.
weirdly enough, it's almost like he knew, that 2 years later into Mnet, like I said, with Mzansi Magic
Wow.
Music. And for me, that changed my life a little bit.
Mm.
Things started getting a better financial about the music industry in terms of
Yeah.
how the radio landscape works, because out there you're working for the likes of Fab FM and Metro. You would have gone through that process of knowing the groundwork. You know what I mean? You get
Yes.
there once you are polished. And one of the biggest things that has actually helped me get to I wouldn't necessarily say that you need to be the best out there. It's just pretty much
Sure.
staying grounded, respecting the game. Also, just making sure that you understand that this thing doesn't belong to you. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
belongs to the people. You need to serve the
Ooh.
people. And for me, that has
Ooh.
always been my primary thing. That wherever I am, it's not my father's company. It's not my parents'
Mm.
company, if I can put it like that. It belongs to the
Akokwamalume.
people. And yeah, you know what I mean? And I'm grateful to be on that platform, to be able to see the next biggest star rise. You would have
Yeah.
given them that opportunity, that airtime for them to showcase their talent. And for me, it's always been about that. And I've never thought to myself I've arrived, regardless of the platform where I am.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And your story is so incredible because my story is very similar. So I got to YFM because I got retrenched as a recruitment consultant, and I just moved into Joburg, just graduated from Cape Town. 3 months later, retrenchment. And then I was like, what am I gonna do? So I packed my bags and I was ready to go home. Then I get a call from Stefan from YFM, and it's like, hey, Y
Yeah, I
Academy,
remember
Monday.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, and life just changed from there, and that's what happens. Radio finds you, and when she finds you, she bites, and you never recover. Like, you always long for radio, right?
For sure. And like, yeah, I grew up on radio.
Yeah.
One of the funny things is that, like, yeah, at home, Metro FM was always what we've listened to. And I never thought in my wildest dreams that obviously I will get to that point, but it was always my passion to work for one of the biggest stations out
Yeah.
there. But it just came in a weird way. You know what I mean? So for me,
Yeah.
that was like a dream come true to be at this form and at this particular time. So I think just
I love
always like keeping the dream alive and making sure that you do the groundwork. Um, like I said, like back in the day, even when I was in school as well, I would come in and see people shows. And for me, I think
Yeah.
that
Les, we're going to take a break so we can establish a better connection because we're struggling to hear you. You just keep breaking up. So we're going to take a break, just
helped
a
me
quick
give me
break, and we'll
an
find
idea. I
a better connection,
used
and we will be right back.
to
All right, so we're back again. This is the Boss Moves Media Show, episode 14 with the incredible Lesiba Marugana. And he is an amazing, amazing music compiler. He is big in the music industry and is going to tell us all about that right now. Les, welcome back. I hope we've got a better connection now.
Yeah, apologies.
Yes. All right, so Les, tell me about music compiling. What does a music compiler do? What are your day-to-day, KPIs? How do you get things done, and what do you do?
So, can you hear me?
You know what? Your volume is down a bit. I think it kind of dipped.
But the visuals, are we still cool in terms of the visuals?
Yeah.
You can see me and all of
Now
that,
I
right?
can hear you perfectly.
Cool. Sure. I got that question. You were asking me what my day to day basically
Yeah.
entails.
Yes, as a music compiler.
Okay, cool. So what happens is that I need to pretty much ensure that as a radio station, when it comes to the music side of things, we basically comply to the mother body, which is called ICASA.
Okay.
So that's the most important thing that I need to make sure that in terms of music, we pretty much comply because there's a specific percentage that we need to keep up to when it comes to music in itself. And currently, obviously, what ICASA has stipulated is we need to be playing 35% South African music.
Okay.
But yeah, on the platform that I'm on currently, we exceed that in a massive way.
Is that a
So
good or bad thing?
it's definitely a good thing because that means that we are playing more local music. So 35% is the minimum that we would need to have for South African acts to be on air. So
Sure.
if
But I
it's
mean,
lower,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
If
if
it's
it's
lower
lower
than,
than that, if it's lower than 35%, then we are
mhm,
contravening the act, which could lead to a fine for the station. So that 35% is the minimum, and
okay,
anything above that is on the station's prerogative as to how they would
yeah,
actually treat that. So the fact that we're exceeding it by a huge margin, for me, it's a great thing. It tells you that one, the local industry is doing very well in terms of
yeah,
their music. Two, it's on the level that it's competing with international acts. And there was a time where like people would say, do we have enough local music to last
yeah,
us for 24 hours or whatever it may be? Today it's the most easiest thing, and for me that's the
yeah.
biggest achievement in terms of the South African music landscape.
And I
So
love that
yeah,
about you. I love the
yeah,
fact that you're always putting the South African musicians and their music right up top, and you've done it at 5FM. You transformed the sound of 5FM because of that. But I mean, not so long ago, the national broadcaster had a 90% rule. What were
yeah.
your thoughts on that?
For me, I think the biggest thing about it was that I didn't have any issues or any take at that point. I think it could have possibly been done better. It needed to be phased um,
Okay.
in order for us to do that, not as in done abruptly. You know what I
Okay.
mean? I think that's what happens with anything that's new, and if it's done at that magnitude, people get shocked and they get worried. I mean, eventually we are gonna get to a point where it's either 90% or 100% local music. I mean, if you can check with some of the collaborations that are happening overseas,
Yes.
the world wanting the South African sound. I mean, at the moment, the latest exports being Amapiano. Right now, it's doing well on the African continent, where other African countries are actually interested in it. And when it started out, people were like, "This sound is definitely not a sound
For
that can be
radio.
exported for Radio One. Two, it
Yeah.
cannot be exported at all." You know what I mean? And here
Yeah.
we are. Like, I mean, in Nigeria, they are sort of after it, and there's been like a couple of rumors and things that I've been privy to hear that, I mean, even sort of like Drake's team OVO, They kind of heard a couple of
Yes.
projects, but I won't mention the names where
Okay.
those people. But it got their attention. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So for me, that's incredible that South African, a type of sound like that came through from a township. Now it's going across the world. The world is actually watching. So it's a direct result of South African radio coming to the fore as well, and the artists themselves doing a lot of groundwork. And they didn't want to wait for
Yeah.
radio
Yeah.
to sort of like get them in. I feel like they sort of nudged radio a bit to say, look, man, here we are,
We're
and
hot. You're
we are
missing
hot.
out.
You know what yes. And then therefore this is what the sound is all about. And there were
Yeah.
a couple of people that were instrumental in making sure that sound actually does get on radio. And right now
Sure.
it's it's
It's
it's
everywhere.
it's it's yeah,
It's
it's
blowing
everywhere,
up.
and it's a normal thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for my thing is that I just wish that South Africa doesn't kill the sound. What they need to do is grow it, because you
Mm.
get this thing where people are like, okay, cool, like
Mm.
we have this sound that is authentically South African, but what is the next sound? You get what I'm
Yes.
saying?
How?
That
Why
shouldn't
can't we
necessarily.
build this?
Yes,
And
yes.
blow
You
it
see
up
how?
like
Yeah,
K-pop, like
yeah.
K-pop.
Like Afro beats, it's synonymous
Yeah.
with Nigeria. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
and and the world took to it as well. So in
Yeah.
this instance, it's something that we need to obviously nurture and then look after the sound that it remains. You know what I mean? And there's also other genres as well that are doing well in South Africa. We've always known house music, hip hop, but I felt like even Gom, like I felt like maybe the people that were on top of the game, they sort of like relaxed a bit, and they
Yeah.
thought that we
They
got
chill.
this. They chilled. You know what I mean? As opposed
Yeah.
to trying to see opportunities in terms of how they can export it on
And
the
then
world stage.
the piano kids came. But I mean, before the piano kids came into our, knowledge, because I know I heard my first piano on YFM in the morning and I was like, what
Hmm.
is that?
Hmm.
What makes a radio friendly song? What do I need to incorporate, or what should I not have in a song to make sure that it is actually playlisted on the radio?
See, one of the things that could have probably sped up that whole Mapiano vibe and culture was
Yeah.
always the lyrics. Now,
Okay.
one, there was a bit of an issue that some of the lyrics on the weren't as clean as we would know
Yeah.
them to be. You know what I mean? So that kind of
Yeah.
makes it difficult. No matter how hot the song is, as long as there's no censorship on the song itself, if it's not censored, if there's swearing, there's connotations of a sexual nature, or if it's offensive in a way. So that's what kind of held it back. Yes, we are aware that it's popular culture. It's how the language is used on the streets. But then when you get on radio, the language is somehow different, because one, there's kids, and then there's particular groups that feel offended in that specific way. So that's the
That's a
first step. That
tricky one, though. That's a
yeah,
tricky one, Les. I mean, if makhaleni wa
yeah.
user, I mean, it's outright drug use, right?
But then you see at that point that had to be censored. It had to be
Oh,
censored. That part that we Fage Makaleni
okay.
had to be censored. And also the messaging of the song, the guys were saying that there are these girls that are
Mm,
using the drugs. They're not necessarily promoting.
yeah,
I think that particular song, it always comes up in discussions. And for me, I think people lost the message of the song.
yeah.
What made it to be controversial, I remember it was a Twitter video, if I'm not Instagram video, where there were four girls dancing in the pool, and then they're the ones that created the dance where they were talking about. So
Oh,
now people sort of thought that, oh, okay, these guys are promoting drug use.
okay.
Whereas in fact, if you listen to it, that labantwana hama Uber. So when they say labantwana
Yeah,
about Uber, they're busy. These
yeah.
girls are very busy. They're going, you know what I mean? Like
They're for
they're very,
everybody.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they're for everybody. And what really makes them even more like to be bad is the fact that they use,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
cocaine in that instance. So the message behind it was misunderstood. in that instance. And you know how
Yeah.
people can
Yeah.
shift something in terms of that. So,
No,
like
for
I
sure.
said, firstly, it's the lyrical content, the F
Yeah.
bombs, and everything else. We know that hip hop uses that a lot. So, they would need to be censored, which means that when we say a radio edit, we talk about that. Secondly, we're talking about the length of the song.
Okay.
As you know, radio is a very time conscious medium. Everything is happening very quickly.
Yeah.
We take into account people's attention span. I mean, if I'm gonna be playing a 6 minute song on the radio, you are definitely gonna tune out because at some point you are like, oh my god, this song has just been going on for long and long and long. We've got
Yeah.
we've got news, we've got traffic, we've got
Yeah.
ads, you know,
Cut it.
we've got
Cut it.
yeah, you know what I mean. So for me, it's very important that when the guys are in the studio and they're looking to submit to radio, have two versions: the album version when people are there and it goes on to those digital platforms where that full version you can do whatever. But when you submit to radio, take the best part of the song that best represents you, and it can entice a listener in saying, "Geez, I love this song."
Yeah.
And I actually want to hear it every day on my radio. I actually want to end up buying this song or owning it in that fact. So for me, the best right now is possibly have a song that is like 3.5 minutes to about
Okay.
4 minutes. But I've seen now recently with a lot of pop and hip hop songs, they've even gone down to about 2 minutes 55. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where, like I said, there's millions of songs that are getting released nowadays. You know what I mean? So what needs to
Yeah.
happen is that you need to put your best foot forward, and you need to get to the point quickly. People's attention span, they don't have enough time to be going through all of this music. So when they have an opportunity, you would need to be able to make sure that you capture them in that instance. The other part of it as well is that there's a process where once your song is has been recorded, you need to make sure that it's mixed and mastered so that
Okay.
the levels are of a international standard, and that
Sure.
when it plays on radio, it doesn't sound that it's muffled, it doesn't sound like
Mono.
mono, or you in a cave or whatever it may be in terms of
Sure.
the sound in itself. It needs to be sounding very crisp so that it's very clear. And that's when we look at things like that when it comes to production as well. So it's all
Yeah.
about putting your best foot forward. Now with the latest things when it comes to like digital, make sure that you submit the artwork as well. Make sure that you submit your bio. Make sure that you submit two forms of songs. When I'm talking about like the quality of it can be very big, so you
Yeah.
need to create a download link where we can download the music. But in order for us to be able to reference the music itself, have a 5 megabyte or less song so that we can reference
Okay.
quickly. And then once we have an idea of how the song sounds like, once it's ready to be loaded, there is actually somewhat of a good quality when it comes to
Yeah.
that. The most
I'm.
important thing that I can mention
Yeah.
as well is the
Yes.
chorus, the hook. If
Okay.
people can work on the hook itself, that's why it's called the hook. It needs to hook a listener.
Okay.
It needs to hook whoever is pretty much listening to it. Half the time, your favorite songs, if you were to sing your favorite song right now, the only thing that you will firstly gonna remember is the chorus of the
Yeah.
song. And then
Yeah.
once you start listening to it more, then you're gonna start getting into the verses and enjoying whatever gets to be said in the verses. But whatever
But I
captures
mean,
a listener is
yeah.
that
But I mean,
exactly.
you guys in the music room when you're choosing songs, right? In the music team, you guys listen to the song for like 2 seconds and you decide that it is a radio song or not. So
That
how are you gonna know how my chorus sounds?
see, that's another perception that we listen to a song for 2 seconds. So you see how the process would then be for me is
Yeah.
that I spend time listening to the music
Okay.
in the entire day, right? So I need to listen to the song in its entirety before I can come and then say to the music committee, say this, I feel like this song has the potential to be the biggest thing.
Okay.
I would have known. And even at that, people do play whenever there's meetings. Like even just going back to YFM, we would sit, listen to the first verse, get into the chorus, and then a bit of the second verse as well. So we need to give it time. There's
Sure.
nothing of that nature to say that no, we listen to the song 10 seconds. But in terms of my experience when it comes to me as well, you can already tell in the first 20 seconds of a song if it's a good song or not.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that in itself, hence I say we spend our day listening to music and making sure that I listen to the entire song. Because imagine if I was to listen to a song for 30 seconds, like people have said.
Sure.
I don't know what's happening in the second verse. There could be some swear words in there. There could be bad language in there. So I need to
Yeah.
have an idea what is exactly what's happening. So
But you
hence,
do give feedback, right? Les, if my song is whack, like you'll tell me where to fix it and what to work on. Do you do that?
that's sort of like dangerous because remember we're not engineers, we're not production people in that sense,
Sure.
but we have an idea as to what works and what doesn't. But we do give feedback at any given time that we can. It wouldn't necessarily be the entire time because if I have to spend time giving feedback, I'll spend the whole day because
Yeah.
there's dozens of songs that do get rejected. So
Yeah.
I need to always make time for those responses, and people need to also like make follow-ups. I mean, emails, you can be on
Mm,
the other side of the world, you
yeah.
email and then you just find out if your song has made it or not. But when you submit your music, there is a certain criteria, or there is an email that you will receive that will pretty much give you the guidelines as to what happens thereof. You know what I mean? So there
Yeah.
is somewhat of a communication, if I can put it like that, to say that if you haven't heard anything from us in this period, you need to consider the music not have made it onto the playlist.
Sure, sure. And I mean,
It's
a
like,
lot of,
yeah,
yeah, a lot of people will, send music to the wrong radio station. Where is the genre important, and how do you determine which genre and which station your song fits in with?
that's a very important thing that yeah, I didn't touch on. Format is very key. So it's a musician's task or a manager's or a record label's task to understand every radio station that is in existence in South Africa, if they are actually submitting in South Africa. Stations differ in terms of format because they target different audiences. Classic
Yeah.
example, Metro and Five are completely different in terms of that. They are more you will find not like entirely different, but there's elements of pop that 5FM would ordinarily have that it wouldn't necessarily work on a Metro, for instance. You know what I mean? Because of the nature of the sound in itself. And it will also shock the listeners because the listeners are accustomed to a specific sound. So if they don't get to hear it, they don't if they hear something that's out of the ordinary, that's when they will tune out. And ICASA also stipulates to say a particular radio station needs to stick in this specific format. I mean, if you
Sure.
were to hear a pop song on Ukozi FM, you might be shocked at a certain point. Although
Although
there
we
are
have,
certain although there are certain genres, yes.
yeah.
So what happens is that they do allow us a bit of room
Okay.
to do that, but then you cannot go entirely in terms of that. I mean, one or two songs, yes, but then it's not the format of the station to be playing Maskandi on a 5FM, for instance. You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? Yes,
Yeah.
on a Metro, you can touch on it. There's elements of it in terms of music fusing these days, but an outright song like that, maybe one, but it cannot form part of
Sure.
the station sound,
Yeah.
if I can put it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I mean, are there people in this day and age who are still submitting songs that are not registered?
most definitely. I mean, I don't know, like it goes as far as people getting hold of your number as well, and then somebody just sending
Calling
you a
you.
WhatsApp. No, not even calling you. Sending you a WhatsApp and say, "Yo, please check this out. This is my song." You get what I'm
Wow.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
whereas that's completely inexcusable.
Yeah.
I mean, there's channels for you to be able to send that music, and then two, like I said, when you submit your music, there is a list that you would need to go through in order to make sure that you've ticked your boxes in order for us to be able to do that. If we play unregistered music, we are also contravening
Mm.
our license conditions. Two, the artists themselves are doing themselves a disservice by not
Yeah.
doing that, because when your music is,
Royalties.
yes, you know, royalties. I mean, we are in the business of obviously making sure that you provide us with the content. But the content is music, and we use that content to put the station in a favorable position. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And
I've never looked at it like that.
you need to be compensated in terms of you providing us with that content. Hence, the radio stations have to pay a blanket fee for to the collecting societies. So
Yeah.
part of that is compliance as well. Hence, we need to make sure that at the end of the month, the information that gets sent to those people when we're
Yeah.
capturing music, and then when you're loading music, that it's representing the artist. So the biggest thing about it is them doing them a disservice to themselves
Sure.
by
And
not
I mean,
doing that.
it compromises you as well when you send me a WhatsApp, right? Because we've seen a lot in the news where music compilers have been implicated in Biola debacles, and how do you then, separate yourself from that as a music compiler?
Well, like I said, well, for me, the biggest response is just to respond by saying, please follow these proper channels. And
Yeah.
the stuff is always listed on the station's website to say this is the process in terms of how you need to submit songs.
Sure, sure. So we're
Yeah.
about to wrap things up in the last 15 minutes, and I'm going to ask you about, the future of the music industry in South Africa, looking at the different platforms that have now popped up and that are continuing to stream into our country. And I mean, the game has changed completely. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about that. We are live with Lesiba Marokana. He is the incredible guest on the Boss Moves Media Show, episode 14, and we will be back right now. We are back. This is the Boss Moves Media Show, episode 14, with the incredible Les. And we're talking about the music industry in South Africa, particularly getting your music on the radio. But we cannot, put aside the incredible work that is happening on the ground where streaming is concerned. It came and it hit us like a rock. And I know that I still try to look for a lot of old school South African music that I cannot find on these online platforms. Les, where do we go from here? There's so much content that hasn't made it onto these platforms, and I wonder if it even exists.
It definitely does, and I can only speak on what I know in terms of what constitutes in terms of like that stuff not even getting on. So you would definitely need somebody from a record label to give you a bigger picture. I can only just touch on it a bit and saying that with music, there's different agreements that we need to like sort of get into. It's a long process. You know what I mean? To say who
Mm.
pays for the recording, and when you pay for the recording, you basically get to own it. And music rights as well, that certain artists have passed away and their estate, once they get to own the music, feel like it's not worth it for them to actually get this music uploaded, or there could be ongoing battles between parties where record label and artist just don't agree in terms of getting their music uploaded on there. So it's just these nitty gritties where there's no agreements in terms of making sure that it gets uploaded. Hence, you don't get some of this stuff being uploaded. That whoever the rightful owner is at the time probably feels like it's not worthy or worth it for them
Yeah,
to
yeah.
have that music uploaded. So it's
And
one
I
of
mean,
those things as well.
yeah, I don't blame them because according to Samro, 80% of the content that is consumed on these streaming platforms is international music, you know? And I mean, with the industry growing at such a rapid rate, I mean, it's estimated this year in 2021 to be just above R500 million. Are we actually getting the money? Is it translating for the musician at this point?
Well, I, I wouldn't necessarily speak on that side because I don't know how much they would receive on it.
Sure,
But
sure.
obviously, just hearing through the grapevine that it's probably not the best for them. Back in the day with the physical CDs, that worked out better for them because it kind of gave them more money. Whereas with
Yeah.
streaming, it's probably less. But when you look at in terms of streaming, it kind of helps in terms of your music, where it reaches spaces where you wouldn't never thought. Because remember with the CDs, when those physical CDs being sold, there had to be a demand for you to be able to put your music in the United States, for instance, as a local act.
Yes.
Who's gonna buy it? Do people even
Yeah.
know you? You know what I mean? Whereas with streaming now, somebody who's in Canada or Europe can be able to stream your music, and
Yeah.
that's why the music has grown exponentially. Where now these collaborations are happening with people overseas. The internet has made it easier for
The
that specific part
explosion.
to happen. So
I
there
love
is,
it.
with everything, there is actually an upside and a downside for it.
Yeah.
Yes, the money may not be translating to that, but I mean, for instance, if you happen to have like a fan base in the states, because these streaming services do give you where your music analytics, where your music actually gets streamed, so you will be able to focus on in that specific territory when you look at where your music is streamed. Who knows, in Canada you might have a fan base of about 15,000 people that stream your music. Then that in itself tells you already that if you can go out there and maybe have a tour or a concert, you are bound to have people come and
Yeah. Who
support your
know
music.
you, right?
Yeah. So back in the day, people didn't even have access to South African music, which was amazing. You know what I mean? You physically had to put a CD in your bag, and then maybe
Yeah.
have one of your friends who lives that side, or you ship it to them, and he's probably stuck in a small town where people wouldn't even get to know you. It would be word of mouth. But in this day and age with the streaming, it works out best. And I think the biggest thing
Yeah.
about it is that you will know when your song is popular and everybody else is vibing to it. Then what it will do, it will extend to you getting sync deals. When we're talking about sync deals, is them putting your music into picture. I mean, like
Okay.
Vodacom taking your music and using it in their advert. That in itself also involves some form of payment. I mean,
Yes.
big shows as well, like performances. Yes, we're in lockdown at the moment. The shows are not that much, and obviously the crowds are less as well. But in a perfect world, you would still be able to make your money if you get to be popular on the net as well. So it has actually
Absolutely.
worked in the artist's favor. They just need to know how to use this tool. And I think now it has also pushed artists to now market themselves, you know, whereas
Yeah.
before you just had the music. Now you need to like market yourself and say, hey guys, please, this is my music, please listen to it, check it out.
Yeah.
Make sure that you try other avenues that will get people to be able to connect to your music. And it's so simple because all you do is just send a link and
Absolutely. It's that easy. I mean, I
someone.
remember one
Mm,
one of our first interviews here on the Boss Moves Media Show was with Skip Dillard, who is the former programs manager at Hot 97 and WBLS. And he was saying exactly that. He was saying, there's so much music coming out of Africa. And honestly, it's as easy as sending your music to the music compiler at that radio station. They could pick
yeah,
up the song and it could get played.
that's as simple as that. Like we're in a digital space. I mean, anybody who's in Cape Town can just with a click send me their music, and then we would receive it, review it, and then if it's of great quality and it's the biggest thing, that person could actually be a star. Whereas back then you had to ship like your CD, like I said, courier it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People would take taxis, take trains, or whatever it is, just to make sure they come to Joburg to drop off their
Yeah.
music. Now you don't have
Yeah.
to do that. You know what I mean? So that's
Right.
that's the upside of having the internet and the streaming services. And one of the things that guys always complain about all the time is that
Yeah.
you guys don't play our music. And all I'm saying is that you've got these platforms that will be able to give you a chance that you can be heard. And once that happens, I mean, look at your Elaine's. They became popular on the internet, and
Yeah.
she landed up on radio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
saying that the guys need to
And
stop
now she's with
complaining. Stop,
Colombia,
yeah. You know
you
what I
know?
mean? So for me, I'm just saying you've got one of the best tools that the music industry never had before, and you can use
Yeah.
it to the best of your ability. Your music, if it's that good, it will make enough noise in order for us to be able to get to you.
The power is in your hands. And you know what? I had a listener on the radio just yesterday, actually. He was talking about buying, a song by a particular artist that we had on the show. And then he says, I downloaded it. And then he says, I downloaded it from like an MP3 site. And we're like, no, no, no. So
Piracy.
yeah, so I mean, streaming comes off the back of digital music being pirated at such a rapid rate, especially in South Africa. Are our people in South Africa, informed? And are these platforms available to them? Deezer, you name it, Spotify, and now Disney is coming and Apple is expanding to podcasts. Are these available to people?
They definitely are available. I think the biggest thing for them is one, the data prices are ridiculous in order for you to be able to stream music. So if
Yeah,
the government can fix that, it's an ongoing debate. Trust you me, if the data prices, the government can regulate it even more and say data prices are affordable. Trust you me, the upside of that is that the South African music now, or any of the music, will be streamed enough because people are not going to have any form of stress in terms of streaming the music because it costs you data. You know what I mean? And secondly, like I said, it becomes more of an affordable issue. I mean, people don't also trust in terms of their details. When you get on
yes,
these sites, you have to put in your card details. Is it People are tend to say it is secure from what I've dealt with, but I don't know the extent of the security.
yeah,
So if somebody is not informed in terms of how that works, they're gonna be wary in terms of them inserting their card details in order for them to be able to access this music. Perhaps maybe these people can find ways
yeah,
of making sure that thing. But in that, radio gives you music for free. You know what I mean?
yes,
So all you have to
yes.
do is just make sure that you always tuned into the radio stations. Then you will be able to get to hear the music. I mean, it's
Yeah.
there, and radio is still the biggest medium in South Africa at the moment. So for
And do you
me,
think these platforms are giving radio a run for her money? I mean, will radio be obsolete? Do you ever see that happening?
maybe probably in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
People were saying that probably in the next 5 years. Not necessarily, because
Yeah.
people come to radio for different things, and I mean, people
Yes.
are even talking about the likes of podcasts. You know what I mean? For me,
Yes.
when you're talking about podcast, as it is at the moment, what eventually starts happening is that we've been chatting for what, for over 40 minutes,
Yeah. Yeah.
but there wasn't any music that involved. So people like a combination of
Yeah.
a presenter talking for 2 3 minutes and then playing their favorite song. So radio
Yeah.
still has that combination, and for me, that is the best combination that you can get. If you want to veer off and then want uninterrupted music, then you get onto these platforms. You know what I mean? And if you don't want
Sure.
to listen to music, you then go and choose podcasting. But
Yeah.
radio is actually accommodating itself, and it is going in that direction where certain shows are getting podcasted. You know what I mean? So for me, I've never seen it as competition. Perhaps those people that are on the streaming services do see it as that. I think radio is doing its part, and it's doing its part in a sense that whenever that person hears that song on the radio, they Shazam it,
They go
and then
find
the
it.
next thing they go and buy it. You get what
Yes.
I'm saying? Where radio feeds into the platform. I just wish that the digital service platform could find a way to also feed into to radio, so that
Yeah.
the mediums coexist in that
Yeah.
sense, as opposed to having this thing where people make it out to be competition. But right
Sure.
now,
Sure.
radio is definitely playing its part, because
Oh, I
every
love
single
that.
song that you get to hear, people Shazam, people when they hear you back announce the song, they write it down, and then they wanna own the song. So all they do is that they go into these streaming sites, and then they start listening to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know. People, yeah, definitely making it out to be competition, but in my
Yeah.
opinion,
I like that.
it shouldn't really be that way. And the artists need to take advantage of that particular situation, and seeing
Sure.
radio as a marketing tool for them as well, as opposed to now saying, "Hey, you know what? We don't care, because we've got platforms where we can showcase our music." Right now, there's dozens of kids that upload their music onto those digital platforms, but nobody
Yeah.
knows that it exists, because, trust you me, these streaming sites as well, they also have somewhat of a format that radio has. I
Yeah.
mean, in order for you to be able to discover, there's
Yeah.
playlists. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's playlists on there, and they get to choose the best performing music on there, which is what radio has been doing for years. That we get to put on air the music that is best performing, and the music
In
that is
higher
what,
rotation.
yes,
Yeah.
that gets to. We also play music that's got potential to become big. So
Sure.
it's pretty much the same platforms. It's just that the other one has uninterrupted music, and then the other one has a combination where it's information, and at the same time it's music on there. So it's still gonna take some time. I mean, with the numbers that radio
Sure.
has, and the way people rely on it, there's still gonna be some time. And that also just gives radio bosses some time to also now move in terms of the times, to make sure that the medium in
Sure.
itself doesn't die out. It's only if there's no growth in terms of the medium itself where it will eventually die. But I don't see it dying. And sometimes with life, like I said, I mean, if you look at even fashion trends,
Yeah.
who would have thought at some point? I mean, I used to look at my parents' pictures. There would be bell bottoms
Yeah.
on there, and at some point in my high school career, those things came back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So who's to know
Yeah.
that, you know,
Yeah.
certain mediums will thrive through.
I love that. And that's my takeaway from today's chat with you is that we need to find ways to make radio and the digital streaming spaces complement one another and work together.
Yeah.
So that's my homework. And finally, just to wrap up, Les, you are a musician. You make music rather, and you play at gigs. You know, you're a DJ. Are you? And what can we look forward to from Les?
On the musician part of it, I'm not a musician. I just happen to know them. Yes.
Really? You don't
Yeah.
produce? You don't make beats?
No, 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 no. I'm not into that.
Really?
I don't wanna be out here tomorrow on Twitter to say stop lying. We know the people that make music, and then we know people that pretend to have produced music and act like it's theirs. But yeah, no, no.
Yeah.
On that front,
Ah,
just
I see what
I'm
you
just
did
clear
there.
on that I don't produce music. I don't make
Okay.
music. Yes, I do
Okay.
play at gigs, soul sessions where we play music for the grown and sexy. So
Yes, that's
yeah,
my kind of music.
yeah, for
I
sure.
love
So
that.
yeah, those are
You
the
are
gigs that
so
I play at.
incredible. You are
Thank you so
amazing.
much.
I mean, chatting to you, I don't think I've ever had a one-on-one like this with you, and I've gotten to know you so much more, and you're just amazing. Thank you for being such a light in the music industry and really bringing our local talent to the show and helping them shine. You know, you just continue to do that, and we love you for that, Liz.
Thank you so much. That's the best compliment I've gotten this year.
No, virtual hug, virtual hug. Thank you so much and have yourself a lovely weekend. I know you're out to play somewhere for the grown and sexy, and we're going to keep following you on your social media platforms so we can know all about it. Thanks, Les.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Oh, man, that
Have
was
a
incredible. You too. Have a lovely one. Let's see about Morakana. Oh, wow. I love that. I love that. And I love the fact that you have learned a thing or two. Make sure that, you know the basics. Listen to this interview over and over again and get yourself acquainted with what you need to know as a musician to get your music played on South African radio. You could be a musician internationally. You could be anywhere. And you need your music played here because South African people are just the best. You know, African people are just the best. And we're definitely what is hot right now. So that's how I wrap things up. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Absolutely love you. I'll be back with you again next week, Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. Central African time here on the Boss Moves Media Show with episode 15. I wonder who it's going to be. It's going to be someone incredible, obviously, bringing us gems that you need to know and implement in the music industry. So I love you. Have a great weekend. God bless. Bye.